Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mushroom Wonderland. Today I'm happy to be in the woods with Britt Bunyard, PhD, mycologist. You're from Chicago.
Yeah.
Came all the way out to Mushroom Wonderland just for this.
I did come out here because it is a mushroom wonderland, so of course, why wouldn't I come here?
It is, right. And he's traveling around hitting all the different clubs. I got lucky enough to have him come hang out in the woods with me today and with you guys. So make sure to hit subscribe. Let's go check out all the wild mushrooms here in Mushroom Wonderland with Britt Bunyard.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Mushroom Wonderland.
Yeah, what did we find right here?
This is so cool. Such a pretty bolete with this like purple black top. You know, I've been coming out here for a long time, and this is one that everybody used to call the boletus, but that was when it was called boletus still, Telluride. But now, of course, we know it's a little bit different. I don't think what do you know about when you see this one growing, Aaron? Is it probably not normally on wood, right?
No, these ones come out of the soil.
They're super gorgeous. Look at that chunky little stem. I think people probably eat this, don't they?
They do. So this one, Xerocomelus atropurpureus, is the dark purple bolete, I guess.
And pretty.
It gets confused with Telluride. Telluride appears to be more coastal, have a lighter color on the margin. It really fades to a light color, and then a more slender stipe that's not so bulbous like that.
Right, and I think even quite a bit more elongate versus the size of the cap too, rather than this short, squat-looking dude.
Yeah, but these are said to be a really good edible. What do you think? Have you eaten Zeller's bolete?
I have.
Yeah, what do you think of them?
Yeah, I think they're pretty good, and they're pretty commonly seen too, so that's a nice attribute. Well, that's a great look of both of those side by side.
Totally, yeah. These are extra dark. They're just really young. Probably came up in the last day or two. But yeah, you got that kind of rhubarb red colored stipe, yellow sponge pore surface, and these don't typically blue too much when they're damaged.
I mean, there's just, as you know, there's just so many types of boletes. Anything that we have as a character that we can help separate one group from another helps.
Totally. Should we cut the base off and see how much it blues?
Yeah.
Usually you'll see that blue-green pretty rapidly in boletes, especially when they're this wet. But they don't typically blue, and I think the way that we differentiate the diffractus, which is really common right now, from Xerocomelus atropurpureus is that quick bluing reaction that these don't have. Oh, you're looking for LBMs. You got a little entomomiaceae.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know the entomomas very well, but I like seeing them. They're so pretty.
Yeah. So do you have any like feelings about picking young mushrooms, or what's your take on the like cut or pluck or age or?
Yeah, that I get asked that all the time. Of course, it's a big
point of contention.
It's a big point of contention. So the thing is, based on what science we have on the cut or pluck and age and all that sort of stuff is. We don't have a lot of evidence. However, there's been one study in Europe, everyone calls it the Swiss study. It's been going for many decades, whereby in a forest that they have sectioned off plots, they quite literally go in during this study all throughout the entire growing season and pick all the mushrooms, all the species. And again, it's been going on for decades. The other study, which has found pretty similar results, is from North America, and that's in Oregon, and the Oregon Mycological Society has been doing that one. That's the so-called Oregon Chanterelle study. And they go into a certain forest where they, again, have all of these plots marked off and randomized such that, one plot, they pick all the chanterelles in a season, coming there, every couple days or every week or something, and then plot next to it, they don't pick anything, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all randomized plot. And what both of these studies have found over many decades is picking all of the mushrooms quite literally has no effect whatsoever on the amount of individuals the next season and subsequent seasons, nor in the diversity at all. Mm-hmm. They also check plucking versus cutting.
Yeah.
And what they found is same thing. Plucking or cutting doesn't matter whatsoever. I wonder how important the sexual spores are of fungi in any case, because fungi can reproduce asexually and vegetatively and get around other ways. So the spores really, the true spores, the sexual spores might really not be all that important. A lot of people it doesn't harm the mycelium to pick these mushrooms, whether they're young or old. It doesn't harm them because the analogy always is that it's like plucking an apple from the tree. You know, there's lots more apples, and that's actually not really super accurate. It's more like plucking the flowers off of a tree. So the flower, the apple in the tree is the reproductive propagule ready to go and make more of its kind. The spores are not. The spores are like the eggs and pollen of a plant. So it's like plucking the unpollinated flower off of the apple tree. And the spores are very much like pollen. They're haploid, and they're very cheap to make. The plant or mushroom can make tremendous amounts of spores and pollen, and if none of them hit their mark and do anything, which frankly that's pretty much the case. Almost none of them will hit their mark and result in another baby plant or baby mushroom. It doesn't really much matter. They were so cheap to make. The more that we look into stuff, a lot of the stuff that we thought were hard and fast rules in mycology really necessarily so.
All right, so Britt, you are the director of the Telluride Mushroom Festival.
In a nutshell, basically, yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest mushroom festivals in the country. If you guys don't know about Telluride, it's amazing.
The Telluride Mushroom Festival is the largest wild mushroom festival in North America. Yeah, it's massive. There's over 50 presenters every year, and thousands of people go, and it's in this wonderful, beautiful...
So many mushrooms out there in the middle of summer.
It's nuts.
Yeah. So this usually takes place like second or third week of August. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. In the Rocky Mountains, and it's a great place to see all of the mushrooms and learn about them all in one little shot. Because if you're unfamiliar with how the season goes in the Colorado Rockies, it's a very short season when they get all of their rain. So everything from morels some years all the way through Matsutake boletes is all up at one time.
No way.
Yeah, so you can see all of these groups on display, and but the main reason people come out is for the king boletes. They're really, really good.
The rubriceps,
that's the rubriceps, yeah. And it's really, really great, and they're usually out in profusion.
Yeah, we drove out a couple of years ago. Stayed in Moab, Utah. It was like 107 degrees. Drove 2.5 hours, and it was 53 degrees and raining up in Telluride. Yeah, and we camped, and it was a shock because we were like, oh my gosh, there was mushrooms everywhere. It's just its own ecosystem way up there.
It's pretty high elevation. You know, that Four Corners area is the highest concentration of so-called 14ers, the 14,000 foot mountains, which are the highest mountains in the lower 48. It's the largest concentration of them. So if you're camping there, it makes you're up pretty high. It makes for cold nights, even in the middle of summer. Yeah. But it also, scours a lot of the water out of the clouds passing through, so it gets tremendous amount of rain most years.
Oh man, yeah, it was phenomenal.
It's a special place, but it's a very short window. So it's just a great time to have a mushroom festival because it's pretty reliable to see all of the mushroom groups. Yeah. And everyone there is really super enthusiastic and excited.
And then the parade is crazy in the drum circle and all of that. So is there an official website for the Telluride Mushroom Festival, or people could probably just Google it if they want to find more information?
Google it. There's for sure websites and lots of stuff about it. Telluride Mushroom Festival's on Facebook and Instagram and pretty much everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple videos of Telluride, of the parade, and we camped at a place called Priest Lake and hiked around there. And
Priest Lake is so pretty.
There was a little cabin down there in the woods, and that actually became the Mushroom Wonderland logo. Our cozy cabin design was based on a little cabin right there on Priest Lake near Telluride. So
very cool.
So we were mushroom foraging, and we found this little cabin in the woods. So it actually made it onto.
There it is right there. That's the cabin?
That's the cabin.
And that's pretty much as big as the mushrooms get, too. Yeah. They get really enormous. That's really accurately...
That's not an actual photo.
It looks like an actual photo.
Check this out. Are you familiar with these mushrooms?
Oh, I believe so. This is probably going to be the Stropharia ambigua.
That's right.
I was a little hesitant at first because, as its name implies, they're ambiguous. They can have a few different looks. Look at that.
Look at that veil.
Partial veil still intact, so shaggy. Oh, wow. What a nice find. I love the velar material hanging down from the side and the shaggy stalk. This is one of those things it's a common mushroom out here, right?
It is. It's very common, yeah.
And, and it's not got flashy colors, but there's a lot of really pretty things about it. Also, it's kind of hard to know because of the name, indicates it's ambiguous. Sometimes they're a lot smaller than other times. They can be massively big, and you can kind of mistake it for hornmannii and some other stropharies that look kind of like them. A lot of people that are beginners, when they see this, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute, is that a psilocybe?" Because they look like a lot of psilocybes, and
like a cubensis, maybe a big, large psilocybe.
Absolutely, and of course it's because they're close relatives, right?
Right.
So in fact,
didn't psilocybe used to be in stropharia?
Absolutely, I know a lot of people to this day say, "Oh, if you're needing more stropharias, come on by," and that's sort of code for psilocybe.
I never heard that. Yeah, same colored spores. So prior to DNA stuff, they thought, well, first they thought they were plants, and then and then it was just morphology, and then spore color categorized everything. So they're purple brown spores like psilocybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a really good point. In identifying mushrooms, that we might have a lot of different things that can be lookalikes. A spore print, as you know, is one way you can separate some things. If it's a white colored spore print, not necessarily so helpful. A lot of white spored mushrooms, but dark spored mushrooms, especially when there's variations, it can be helpful. So, and you said this one is
dark purple brown, like hypholoma or psilocybe. There's quite a few that do have that, but you can narrow it down, I think, that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've heard of people eating these, but the consensus is kind of that they taste like rotting wet leaves or something to that extent.
Yeah, there's some of the other stropharias people will eat, like the so-called garden giant, the Stropharia rugoso annulata. I think it's still called that, right? Yeah. And those get really massive and grow on wood chips. And I think that's a pretty good one. A lot of people don't really like it so much, but what Stropharias sort of lack in flavor. They're no chanterelle for sure, but what they lack in flavor, they make up for it in beauty. And this is a saprobe. So this is rotting things in the environment, unlike those boletes we encountered that are mycorrhizal and partner with the trees. These are rotting things in the environment and building up soils, and so that's great. They don't need to taste great. They are perfectly wonderful for the environment doing what they're doing.
Good point. You don't have to eat everything. That's one thing.
Everything,
My forays, everybody's like, "Can you eat it? Can you eat it?" It's like, that's a stick.
Yeah.
You could eat it, but do you want to?
I'm in birding groups too. They don't go in the woods wanting to eat every egg they find or bird. I mean, I don't know what's with the mushroomers. They really want to try everything. Because
I'm like, do you really want to eat everything?
That looks like food to everybody.
But these can be pretty large and handsome, and I've thought, man, they kind of look like they could be appetizing.
Oh yeah,
and they're so related to the wine cap. Like, why would they? Seem like they would taste pretty close.
Yeah, and they're for sure absolutely safe. There's lots and lots of people have eaten these, probably mistaken them for other things, probably mistaken them for psilocybes. We would know if they were
dangerous.
If they were toxic in any way. I've seen some. I have photos of some with really big chunky stems and caps. Like a teacup saucer is big around. They can get pretty enormous sometimes.
Yeah. I've seen these growing on the side of the road so big that I pulled over. I was like, "What is that?" And then I was like, "Oh, it's just another Stropharia ambiguous."
Top.
Yeah, what do we got here? This
was on wood.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Are you still thinking Q
No, I'm not.
Me neither.
I'm thinking of Satharella.
Absolutely. Aren't those gills pretty and packed in so close? You're familiar with the weeping widow, Satharella, right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's the gills. I mean, a mushroom that has brown gills. How could that be pretty? They're just so gorgeous. They're so packed in there, and they have those little dark droplets on them.
Yeah, they get kind of mottled.
Yeah, this is not that one, but I don't know which one it is. The thing with the Satharella is, they're wood decay fungi too, of course. They don't have a whole lot of features. They're mostly just kind of drab colors. They do have those hollow stems. Not many mushrooms have a hollow stem. But those gills just are always something to see. So if it's Satharella, and that's of course Pasatharella with Satharella P.
Yeah.
So what color spore print would you expect to see on these? You didn't set it up for spore print.
Black.
Yeah, very, very dark.
Yeah.
And the agaricus would be dark, but not as dark.
Chocolate brown.
Yeah, not as dark. Yeah. Wow. So that was a real surprise. There's a bunch of them on the wood.
Yeah, look at that. I thought we would have Cuneroomyces, lignicola.
I thought that was an easy ID, but it's not always so easy. Hey, look at all the bisporellas there on those.
Yeah, this yellow asco.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Aren't those pretty?
This one sometimes surprises people because it has blue staining. You see the bluing?
Oh yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, this one, the snow white crust, Plicacura nivea.
Yeah. I have some photos of, they can grow kind of clustery too.
Yeah, usually in like a column, like on a dead snag.
I have some photos of some that were quite blue that I found out here. I think we might have in the east, but I just don't see it unless I'm out here in the west.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's exciting to see. Freaky mushroom.
Yeah.
It's got these sort of, this hymeneum underneath is sort of almost kind of marulioid. It's kind of veiny. You're really not sure if it wants to be a guild thing or a polypore.
Right.
It's like make up your mind, but
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
And they're pretty soft and delicate for
Yeah.
the season they grow in. Usually when it's really cold, they come out and yeah, they're sort of delicate. They get beat up by the elements pretty hard, but
Yep.
they seem to be doing a pretty good job making a living out here because they're fairly common. It is.
You need to find out.
What are these? Whoa, that's super viscid.
Oh, is this
Jonoporus?
Bolytopsis?
It's got gills.
No, it's got gills. Okay, so it's not Bolytopsis, nor is it Jonoporus. This one looks like Jonoporus.
Yeah, it
shade.
does.
Are they're both the same though?
I don't know. Drum roll, please. Oh, yes.
Got gills. I think it's a Lactarius.
Let's try a little. It's hard to do stuff one-handed here. Oh, yeah, look at right there.
Mm-hmm.
He called it.
So
All
this
right.
this kind of reminds me a little bit like Lactarius ligniotis or something. It has that kind of a profile. I mean, it's not kind of velvety at all. It's slimy, but it has that look of like ligniotis or lignotellus or a few Lactarius that we have back in the east. But I don't know. This is a really striking
I've
Lactarius.
never-
Very unusual. This is something I haven't seen, if ever, not for a really long time.
That's really cool. Britt found this, and what does the top look like? I'm gonna, well, because of that little depression in the center, I'm gonna say Russell abrevipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that
Looks
what?
like Russell abrevipes. There's also, the deceptive Lactarius that looks like Russell abrevipes, Lactarius deceptivus. Looks really similar, and that's why I broke this little piece here to look under the hood to see if white milk might be coming out. I don't see any, so yeah, I think I would go with your brevipes ID. You've tasted these, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's really interesting is Russell abrevipes, and they can get enormous.
Oh, yeah.
Especially out here in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, yeah.
Monstrous. The mushroom is edible. It's pretty bland, but you can eat it. What's called Russell abrevipes, east of the Great Plains where I live, doesn't get quite so big. Super common as well, and they are really, really acrid hot.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it will like burn a hole in your tongue.
Crazy. Yeah, they're mild here, except
Yeah.
for variety acrior, from what I hear. But
Yeah, and this is as I'm sure you know the main host of the lobster
Lobster,
mushroom.
yeah.
And because they're out here, they get so enormous that people back in the east, we find our pathetic little lobster mushrooms are like, oh, if we were out there in the Pacific Northwest, that would be the size of a basketball.
oh yeah. And it's the same genetic species, though, huh? The spicy out east, and the one here is
Yeah, as
genetically
best-
the
As
same.
best as I can tell, I think people
wild.
have actually looked into it and weirdly said,
the
yeah, it's
same.
just some sort of a variety that's different. But
Wild.
We'll
Yeah.
see. Maybe there's new science that I haven't heard about. There's some other conundra like that as well, like the Hydnum rapandum,
Yeah.
the hedgehog mushroom. Some places, is small size, but other places around Newfoundland and a few other places in North America, they can get enormous. Throughout Italy, they have this species, and some places they get enormous, whereas, just a few kilometers away, they've never been that big.
Yeah. And it's the same DNA
I
sequence.
don't know.
Very bizarre.
There has to be something different about it, but I just don't know what it is.
Throwing on wood.
It's always
Oh,
sort of
it's not
off
there,
center.
it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh yeah, that's classic. I love seeing these. That tells me I'm in the Pacific Northwest when I see this guy.
Oh, is that right? They're kind of limited to here?
I'm not positive if they're limited or not, but boy, if I saw them in the east, I can't remember when the last time it was. I see them
really?
out here. And so it's spelled with a J, and you do pronounce it Jonoporus.
I do, but I don't know.
I know a lot of people also say Jonoporus.
Jonoporus, I've heard that too.
Yeah, but
It sounds like you're trying to be too fancy.
and I am. I'm nothing if
Jana
not,
porras.
I am nothing if not too fancy. Look at that shape, and that's the classic shape too. It's just this sort of eccentric stalk, and it has sort of the pores going down one side, and it's kind of velvety on top.
It's kind of small. Kind of a small.
Yeah, they can get enormous.
They get big.
And they're often just singletons too. This seems to be kind of fused.
I see another one back there too.
That little tiny one.
Somebody challenged me to nibble and spit this one.
This would be a good one to put in the basket.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you what, this is about the most bitter thing you can nibble and spit ever. It is bad. Yeah, we've got the Gomphidius subroseus, and then look at right here next to it.
Oh, is that a Suillus? You
Look at
gotta
that.
have the two together. What's going on there?
Yeah, so from what I understand is a parasitism. I mean, you're the PhD here. Let's
I know.
you tell me what.
Down through the years, people have wondered what this is because you'll see one partnering up very nearby to the other. And, you know, a long time ago, this was explained to me that, well, you do see the various Gomphidius species and some Suillus species fruiting at the same time near one another. It's probably just because they're mycorrhizal with the same host tree. I mean, the Suillus is a bolete, and that one's a mycorrhizal, and so that makes sense. But turns out, you know, with time we found out, well, first of all, Suillus aren't really truly boletes. They have a bolete form, but they're not a boletus bolete.
But they're in boletales, right?
They are in the
order.
boletes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And isn't this also in that order?
I know, right? That's what I was going to say. So where we thought these were both mycorrhizal on the same tree, people now seem to think, just as you suggested, that this is probably a parasite on the Suillus. And furthermore, that gilled mushroom you just set down really is basically a bolete. It comes from bolete ancestry, just like the Suillus. And so Suillus, you know, there are truffle forms of Suillus.
Yeah.
There's truffle forms of Gomphidius too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
so,
cool.
You know, not necessarily around here where it's nice and moist, but if you go to other parts of the world that are drier, you'll find that. But
wow. You're a mushroom eater. Do you ever eat the Gomphidius?
I have eaten them. Yeah, they're okay.
They're okay. Okay.
But you know, a lot of people out here call one of the species the hideous.
Hideous, yeah.
Wait, is this subroseus?
This is subroseus,
okay, so this isn't the hideous.
Yeah, I don't. It's the insidious.
This is the insidious.
No, I don't know which.
But I don't know who started that. I think Gomphidius are just about the prettiest mushrooms.
I beg to differ. I before I ever knew anything about them, I was like, oh, that thing is ugly looking. But I mean, it's each their own.
Gills and it's got that slimy partial
that black,
veil.
the black partial veil, and then the yellow. I don't know. Now, recently I did see a picture from Eastern Europe, and it was this gorgeous basket, kind of like mine. Maybe not as nice, but it was in this.
Not as empty.
Yeah, exactly. It was in this meadow. It was a gorgeous picture, and it was tons of Gomphidius, but they were big and fat, and they were all laid the same direction in this just loaded basket full of them, super clean and gorgeous. And I was like, wow, those look nice, right? But when I see this little guy, and he's so slimy.
Is it gonna have gills, and what color?
It's gonna have orange colored gills.
Okay, right.
Maybe.
So what's that make that?
Probably a Cortinarius. Whoa, look at what you found.
So this is one that back in the day when I was a lot younger, it's not blood red all over, so it's not Cortinarius sanguineus in quotes, because we now know that's more than one species. It's basically half red. So this one we would have called semi-sanguineous.
Yeah.
And now, of course, there's different names for that too.
Dang, that's a good call, because I just have been like figuring these out. Yeah. And one of the main, let me see.
Isn't that pretty?
One of the main ways that mushrooms of Cascadia, Noah, and Christian's new book says that on the Smithii, Cortinarius smithii, no fluorescence on the stipe, but on these, on sub or semi-sanguineous, is a fluorescent reaction on the stipe. Can't really see it that well here in the daylight, but in the dark it glows so super bright.
Yep.
So this is a Dermosabe, subgenus Dermosabe, and one of the dye courts. The dye people, you go crazy for these ones, right?
I go crazy for them just because they're so pretty. So yeah, just amazing. All of the different mushrooms. Oh yeah. Oh yes.
That's
nice.
amazing. Look at that.
Also look at the green color.
Keep pointing it.
Wow. Such a stunning orange. And look at the green.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah, at first I thought it was a chanterelle because of that really bright orange color.
Boy, it was just glowing almost from the distance. It's got to be lactarius, though, huh?
I would say so. Look at that. It's
The
classic.
group.
Mm-hmm.
Classic. So I have orange milk, but also gets this green color too. That's just so pretty.
That's right. This one, our local variety of the Deliciosus group is rubrolacteus. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually recently been eating these, and I think they're delicious.
Yeah.
Their name is Deliciosus. Come on.
Yeah, a lot of people really like the Deliciosus group lactarius. I'm not crazy about them. I don't really like their texture. I mean, there's obviously something about them because the Deliciosus group lactarius are some of the most popular mushrooms in the world, especially Europe.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
They're
Yeah.
crazy for them. The markets will be full of them in the fall.
Wow. One thing is that I pick them in there. They're pretty like this. The green is a little bit off-putting, but I put it in the fridge and this whole thing will be like dark green in a couple days, and it doesn't look quite as attractive to me then.
To me, they look super pretty.
You
I
like
love
that? You like that
I
green?
love that color.
But when I've cooked them long enough, they just sort of turn brown, just like any other mushroom. Oh, those are neat.
What do you think this is?
I think it's Mycena epipetygera.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is another one that has super slimy stalk.
Oh yeah, they're sticky.
Look at that guy. Oh my gosh. This, you see these quite a bit, and they can get really, really tall. But often the yellow isn't so dark. This is really, really nice.
Yeah, that's a great
I'm going to have to
specimen
take
there.
photos of those.
Sometimes they seem to get a little washed out from a lot of rain or something, but those
Yeah.
ones are really striking. Do you have those out in the Midwest?
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Oh, okay.
They're all over Europe and all over North America. It's
Pretty common.
everywhere. It's another one of those that's got to be a group of a bunch of different species. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it would be odd to think of something all across Europe. I think I've even seen them in Western Asia too, all across such a large landmass, and all across North America on both sides of the Great Plains and Rockies, and still one species. I mean, it could happen, but it seems like something that's been around on the planet so long has probably evolved into a lot of really similar species. What do you think that is? There's another big one here.
I think this is a deer mushroom because we're using common names.
I think you're right.
And
The deer mushrooms you, of course, recognize immediately because they have pink spores and the gills turn pink, unless they don't.
Unless they're young. And this one.
This one might be more mature. I bet these gills are going to look a little bit pinker. Not really. A little bit, maybe.
A little bit. Pluteus cervinus group.
Yeah.
Do you ever eat these?
No, I have many times. They're pretty bland.
Yeah.
So in the spring, it's weird. So this is pretty late fall here. They're coming out. These you would typically see in the Midwest where I live in the spring, pretty much same time as morels.
Oh,
And, on one of those really sad days when you go out looking for morels and you don't see a lot of morels, sometimes you will see a lot of these and people will bring them back. And they can get quite large.
I was surprised. Me and Daniel Winkler collected some of these, cooked them on a video and tasted them, and they were strikingly like raw potatoes to me. It was like, whoa, that tastes just like the smell of raw potatoes.
Yeah.
Which would be okay if you could cook them and then make them taste like cooked potatoes, but
Turn them into French fries.
Yeah, no,
Sour
but
cream on them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is one of those cups that, at first glance, most people would say, oh, well, that's just a Pizziza or Pizziza and walk right on by. But yeah, good call. It's a cup, but it's not completely intact. It always has a little break in the cup. They're round and then a break, an opening. And
can we make these spore? Can we make them blow a bunch of spores?
Yeah, maybe. That's a good idea, right? So some of these cups, you can blow over them or you can collect them and bring them inside in a bag. And then when you open it, the air disturbance causes them to all kind of discharge their spores at one time. Are you ready?
Yeah.
A little bit.
It did it.
A little
You
bit.
got the magic touch.
A little bit. It's a little bit. Not huge, but yeah.
Cool.
Pretty cool. How
On
that
command. Sometimes they're like so wet out here, they never do it for me. Right. And they know when I'm recording, like the rain stops, but the spores, they also stop. They don't want to show me. Oh, look at right here. This is one of the tricholomas that are common around here. Really bright. metallic sheen almost.
Oh, nice. That is so pretty.
Isn't that cool? Wow.
Is that Zeller's?
No, this is Tricholoma focali.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tricholoma zelleri, isn't that also synonym of focali?
I don't know. I don't know.
think it
that.
actually is, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, of all the ones that are in the sort of matsutake or not quite sotake group, this is my favorite. It's so
The Natsutake.
It's so photogenic.
Yeah, very bright orange. Very. I never heard much about people eating them. I don't think it's encouraged. But it is a handsome and a weighty and a hefty kind of mushroom. Yeah, look at that. That's a number 1, Tricholoma focali.
Yeah, those are
one
so
button.
pretty.
But these are a good indicator that their sister species, the matsutake, is out.
Yep.
What do we got there? Another court, a purplish one. Maybe, I don't think so. In the woods this deep. Oh, it's so rooted deep, dang it.
Oh, definitely court. You're right.
Oh, but it's purple. That's pretty neat. But somebody could get confused for a bluet, right? From the top.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Those are pretty.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
Quite a few quartz look like this, kind of a pretty purple color. You can definitely tell it's a Quartnaris though, because the fragments of the cortina are stuck to the stalk, and you can see the rust brown spores sticking there. Look at those gills too. What a cool color, huh? The contrast, the purple and the rust brown. So brown inside. My nose is kind of stuffed up. Does it have kind of a sweet smell or a stinky smell?
I think it's kind of a sweet smell. It almost reminds me of a bluet, like that smell.
Kind of
almost.
Maybe Trigonus, maybe, or Heliodora.
I don't know, but they're pretty.
I wouldn't have. I pretty much didn't see it until you started to try to pick it.
Well, it's because I have the pecky eye. Oh man, that was bad. That's pretty bad.
Wow, great eye to see that, man! Oh man,
that's an old Heidenellum pecky eye.
Yeah, and it just blends right in with all of the rotting duff. Look at those teeth.
Now, I was in this exact spot a month ago, and they were bleeding like crazy. You wouldn't know that's the bleeding tooth fungus at this stage in life. It's way different looking.
Yeah,
and very drab and
Man,
they have a long life.
When it's at the younger stage, you know. Seeing this on the ground, I mean, the average person would not even suspect it's a mushroom. Actually, holding it in my hand, the average person still wouldn't. And at the younger stage, when, just as you said, they don't really look quite like this, they still don't look like a mushroom. They look like something else. They're kind of a pretty white and red, and there's drops of like red liquid, like blood on them. They're freaky looking, but I think they're strikingly pretty.
Oh, they're beautiful.
But a lot of people are kind of like, ugh, what the heck's that?
And somebody goes, oh, that show Penguin has those, and people are looking at them. It's a new super drug and all of this. That's funny.
I'm gonna have to watch this.
I go, you got to go to my TikTok reels, because I lick the guttation all the time, and maybe that's what's wrong with me. I'm just so high off the stuff I don't even know. It's like a fish in water, trying to tell me I'm wet.
The thing is, you probably think you're filming a person right now. You're actually just out here talking to yourself. I'm like your shadow. You're just like yammering to nobody.
There's somebody over there turned around real quick. They're like, get the hell.
What is that guy doing?
I'm out here. Penguins.
Oh, that's hilarious. No kidding. Wow, you got the eye for that. You're like the Hiddenellum whisperer.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. That's a lot younger looking.
And there's a little spot of the super
right.
drug right there.
Right there on the left. Oh, my God. That's so pretty.
Isn't that neat?
Oh, yeah. Those teeth.
Smells good. Do you smell that? Super fragrant.
My nose. Oh, yeah, I can smell it. My nose is really stuffed up, but I can still smell it.
Sweet.
A lot of the Hiddenellums have nice smells. The mushrooms that have neat smells, even if it's stinky smells, like the tricholomas that can be sulfurous or whatever, that's an off-putting smell. But it's cool.
Yeah.
Nothing smells. You smell it and you're like, oh. But you find yourself sniffing it again because it's a freaky thing. And, a lot of plants don't have smells like that.
You want to lick it?
I think I have to now.
It's just a little drop. I mean,
science.
Next thing you know, he's going to be out here talking to himself.
This is, when you're about to eat a magic mushroom or something, not that I have, but if I were about to, it's this moment you're like, should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? I'm actually doing this. Okay, so now I'm doing this, right? You're thinking those thoughts.
Britt licking the forbidden fruit of the forest, the Heidenellum peckii. Anything?
I think I've tasted it before. and didn't. It seemed like it had a little bit of a bitter note at first.
Yeah, can be peppery in a larger amount. Earlier, a month ago, these were just covered in blood. There it goes. Kicking in.
It's kicking in.
Are you familiar with this mushroom?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's one of the chanterelles.
Mm-hmm.
It's the chanterelle group has, excluding the hedgehog mushrooms, the chanterelle group has two main genera, the cantharellus and the craterellus. And so the cantharellus, like the bigger chanterelles, are a solid stemmed mushroom, and the craterellus are hollow stemmed, like all the way down through. So this you don't have to cut it; you can feel it's hollow. But they're all chanterelles. They have these sort of gills that kind of thick, and they don't break off like russulas or some other mushrooms. They kind of go down the stem a little bit, and this is sort of one of the yellowfoot or winter chanterelle group, which come out really late in the season, often in mossy areas and deep forest, usually in clusters and big groups. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty tasty mushroom. I like them after they've been dried. They're quite popular in some parts of Europe, Spain. I think they might be the number one most popular mushroom, believe it or not.
Wow.
In California, when it's the season, I'll see lots and lots of these. We'll see smaller patches of them in much of the Midwest. They're a lot less common. I think it's something that's a lot more common out here.
And I did a recipe last year that was a hit. And you simmer these in some vinegar and garlic, and you pack them in good olive oil. And then you just spoon them out of the olive oil that's been in there, kind of marinating with the garlic and stuff, and just put them on crostinis, just the olive oil mushrooms. Really killer.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds really awesome.
There's a video on my channel on how to do that. I think they're also good in pasta because they become somewhat noodly.
Yeah,
they're kind of long
and
stringy.
Yeah, I like them in pasta a lot. So, and which species would you call this one?
We call them Craterellus tubiformis, but I've been hearing that it's something else here, perhaps undescribed.
Yeah.
Tubiformis has just kind of become generic, it seems like. But I've seen the tubiformis they have in like the UK is so gnarly and so chonky compared to these. I'm like, man, that cannot be the same mushroom. Yeah,
right, and we use tubiformis for stuff in the east. There's ignicolor and flavescens and a number of other ones in this group, depending on how yellow they are or how brown they are on the top. And I don't know, there's probably lots and lots of species that go by those couple of names. But anyways, they're, if you want to call it a yellowfoot chanterelle, winter chanterelle, beautiful. Everyone knows what you're talking about.
Totally, yeah. And these are mycorrhizal, but growing kind of right on the root here, like directly on the root. Do you think that they're associating with this root in particular?
I suspect not, because they're they're mycorrhizals are attached to
just the tips, right?
Yeah,
very
tips,
fine tip.
So this tree's roots probably come up near the surface of the soil right here, and they just happen to be.
Now I found these by the coast, fruiting off of spruce cones, growing 6 feet up, a red cedar. Baffling.
That is baffling.
And I'm thinking, it's got to be just strands of microscopic hyphae climbing over everything and deciding to fruit on this end where it's attached to the tree on the other end.
Gotta be, and maybe they also have a little bit of a saprotrophic capability too, and maybe they're also kind of partially rotting some of this stuff.
Yeah, sometimes they can get a couple inches across even. Yeah, that's a nice one. Look at that.
Very pretty. Very pretty gills. Oh yeah.
And they're so tough, Yeah,
they are. They're very durable.
Wow.
Kind of quiz.
Yeah.
This time, gills underneath, pores. What's it going to have?
What do we find? Look at that. What a strange looking thing. You might not even recognize that as a mushroom walking by. I'm going to bet that it has gills.
I bet it doesn't.
No, it's going to have teeth under here because it's really stuck on the root. Look at that. Look at that. It's got the tree root.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Look at that. There's your sarcodon. Squamosus. Yeah, this is our
beautiful teeth.
Big, long teeth. It does look kind of feathery. It does.
Yeah. It's got squamules. It's called squamosus because it has squamules. It has those like shingles on top. It's not quite imbricate like Sarcodon imbricatus, which are shingled. It's less shingled than that, so it's got like small shingles or maybe scales, I guess you might call it.
Have you ever eaten one of these? I heard it called the bitter hedgehog sometimes.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I poo-pooed all of the ones in that group for the longest time. And then finally out in Telluride, Colorado during the festival one year, because they're so popular, I couldn't figure out why they're so popular, because I had tried them and people said, well, you're not picking them correctly and you're not cooking them correctly. I'm like, I'm picking them by pulling them up and I'm cooking them by putting them in a pan. What am I supposed to be doing? They're like, well, the really super big ones don't pick because they start to get bitter. So you want smaller ones. Okay. And also you're cooking them at high temperature with butter or oil or something. You should be doing kind of like a dry saute and on fairly low heat and spending quite a bit of time. So it's not like a 5-minute cook. It's a longer cook. So I now do what the locals taught me to do, cut them into fairly large pieces, this kind of low and slow, moving them around once in a while until they've really cooked down nicely. You know, it might take 30 minutes or more. But then they develop this really wonderful, like beef cooked in red wine taste. It's like bourguignon. It's
Dang.
And then you can put it in anything. And now it's become one of my favorite mushrooms.
What?
You know, I hated Brussels sprouts when I was a kid because my mom didn't know how to cook them. Right?
Yeah,
They
exactly.
were horrible. Now I'm crazy about Brussels sprouts.
What do you feel about Agaricus bisporus, about the grocery store button mushroom? Some people just hate this thing.
So so field mushrooms in general, you know, there's a few species of Agaricus that are cultivated. They are the most wonderful mushrooms.
I love that.
Sometimes the ones sitting in the store, yeah, they're not good. They're not fresh and they don't have a lot of flavor. But neither does a lot of other things in the produce case. If you've grown them at your house, and then cut them and taken them straight away into the kitchen and cooked them, they are absolutely wonderful. And you can see why people started cultivating.
When I find the field mushroom in the wild, it's one of my favorites to come across. I mean,
the prints.
but if you were at, or even the campestris, or you know,
absolutely,
they're tasty.
absolutely, yeah. If you find them in the wild and then cook them straight away, they really are wonderful.
Cool. So you found a Suillus growing.
Yeah, some really pretty Suillus. Whoa, some really pretty Suillus. And then look what was right nearby, the Gomphidius, too, which seems to have some sort of association with Suillus.
Now, I call these Suillus lakei, which seems like such a generic name. I mean, that just covers
I would
so
say
much
these
more.
are, you know, close, if not the true lakei. Lakei always has kind of a purplish cast to it, or maybe not always, but a lot of times, that this doesn't quite have. But, I mean, otherwise it looks pretty much like them. So I think lakei is kind of a group.
Yeah.
Also, maybe. I'm not positive.
Because you find they cover so much ground. I mean, lakei is everywhere, right?
Yeah. For lack of a better name, I mean, that's what I would call it.
Subroseus.
Subrose is okay.
Growing with the lakei, parasitizing it. So maybe Gomphidius at one time was mycorrhizal, but then it decided, hey, I can make an easier living just parasitizing this other fungi.
Yeah, maybe. You know, who knows? Maybe it was a parasite on the tree that Suillus was a partner with and then just moved right on over and jumped onto the mushroom. Who knows?
Nice collections right there. Oh, they're pretty. I'll take these to put on the show and tell table tonight. Look at these big, huge
Those monsters.
mushrooms.
Lacarias?
They are, yeah.
That is just about as big as Lacarias get.
Umbilicate, all right? Look at
That
that.
is big hunkin' Lacaria.
Do you ever eat Lacaria?
I have. They're also bland.
Bland, yeah. I was disappointed. They look like they would be substantial and tasty, maybe. And then I ate them, and I was like, like that was actually pretty gross. Unfortunately,
they're super common, of course, everywhere in the northern hemisphere. You see Lacaria everywhere. They partner with just about every kind of tree, but
yeah,
they're not good for the table.
So in this area, in all this needle duff, I often find like Psilocybe pelliculosa. It's been a really popular year for them. And I think Psilocybe is like a big part of what created the Telluride Mushroom Festival. You seem like quite the scientist. What is your feel on Psilocybe and how that kind of cross over?
Yeah, I've long been fascinated with them. You know, from the standpoint of what they're doing in nature, there's quite a few species known. They're pretty interesting. They're saprobes. But there's a lot of parts of the world where psilocybe occur, and then also they have the true psilocybe are active and have chemicals that are very potently active on the mind and have been known for a long time. They've been prescribed as medicine for many, many years until sort of the Summer of Love, and then they got outlawed sort of internationally. And what's neat is now they're having a resurgence. I had tried, magic mushroom or two, along with alcohol and pot. And it wasn't until the first time I was at the Telluride Mushroom Festival, I'd been invited as a presenter to talk about baby amanitas, that people, of course, were asking me. So, just as you did, you're a scientist. What's your take on this? And have you had experiences? And I thought it was literally nonsense. I really did. I thought it was just preposterous nonsense. And so people there convinced me you should, in the proper set and setting, under the watchful eye of someone, you should have a high dose experience. And no other drugs, strangely, allowed them to talk me into having an experience. And it was the most profound experience of my life.
Wow.
It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Just like when you read these stories, it really did happen to me. If people that are curious to try it, if you get with someone that can watch over you and can give you tips on how to do it, it really is something everyone should try. And it's not dangerous and it's not addictive. And it has for sure been shown to have medical uses. I thought it was going to be something else, but once I felt that stalk, it was a lactaria stalk. It's kind of hollow and a little crumbly. It's enormous.
Yeah, there's a huge flush of them that grow all in here. You can see them back there. The red hot milk cap. That thing is regrettably spicy if you nibble it.
So milk cap, of course, lactarius exudes sort of a latex that comes out. What color of milk's going to be in the red hot milk cap?
I think that it is a milky skim milk kind of color, a little bit clear, cloudy.
Looks like not a lot's coming up. This is a pretty old one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's just the stem didn't have much come out. Yeah, just as you said. Definitely looks milky. It looks a little thin milk. Yeah, skim milk. I would call it that. That's a great name for that guy.
Oh, she's on her way out.
Have you done kind of the boiling to detoxify?
I haven't. No. What do you think?
Yeah, I have on several occasions. They can be okay to actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Believe
That's
it or
what
not.
I've heard.
After you do the process, and you would think that after the boiling they would be all flimsy and falling apart. They stay pretty crispy actually.
Yeah.
After boiling, maybe even get a little more crispy after.
Interesting. Wow.
So they're firm, and then you can take those pieces out of the water after you've detoxified and
This one's missing its white spots.
and saute them up. Yeah, just a few spots there, the velar material. Yeah, and then saute them up, and they're decent.
It's kind of a novelty, right?
Yeah, and
is it practical?
Well, and usually if you see any, there's often a lot, so you could get a meal. In the Midwest,
easy to identify too. Right? You're not going to get the wrong mushroom.
Yeah, in the Midwest we have something that looks quite a bit like an Amanita muscaria, and whereas this is toxic, the false fly agaric is not toxic. So,
rubescens?
No, the name
Persicina?
No. Give me a second here. It doesn't have a ring. It has yellow gills. But otherwise it looks just like a fly agaric.
Oh, interesting.
It is... I'm in Western mushroom mode.
Flav something.
It'll come to me.
Yeah, you're the Amanita man. So you got the... should I say Amanita or Amanita? Does it matter?
Or Amanita.
Amanita?
Yeah, if I'm in Europe, if I'm with Italians, then it's Amanita.
Amanita.
Which is probably the correct way.
Okay. And you literally have wrote the book on Amanita.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a copy of it on my shelf.
This just points out that,
Amanita of North America came out, 2020? Just
something like that a few years ago.
Yeah, gorgeous book.
Oh,
and
thanks.
I have that one. And it's
Still-
baffling how many species of Amanita there are. Right?
Yeah, there's a couple hundred or 240 or something in the book. It's pretty much all the common ones, plus some rarish ones are in there too. But really anything common, all the ones you would know from around here and there.
I have a fascination with Amanita phalloides, and I know some trees in Tacoma where they grow, but they're pretty rare around here. And it's one of the more common things that I get asked. People just randomly point out a mushroom. Is that a death cap? Is that a death cap? And it's like, no, they're actually kind of rare.
Yeah, which stands to reason. They're not native to here, so they're still kind of, I think, invading our environment on the West Coast and the East Coast. They were identified positively by DNA sequence analysis in the Boise, Idaho area 2 years ago. So they're starting to make inroads into the interior of North America. And, and
they stay on the coast, kind of, huh? On
For
coasts.
now,
Yeah.
but
They're adaptive.
yeah, they'll be moving inland. Of course, they're native to Europe and they're all over Europe, but they've spread to other parts of the world where they're not native. Australia, New Zealand, and North America, obviously. So they're moving around. The European Amanita muscaria is all over the world now too. So,
But this is probably our more local variety, the flabby vulvata, the yellow,
I would assume so,
yellowish
yeah.
one.
I would assume so.
Cool.
So a lot of
The Amanita man with the Amanita in his
flies,
hand.
a lot of flies stuck to the gills. A lot of people, think that their flies are feeding on this and dying, which I don't think.
Are they drunk? Is that why it's the fly agaric? Is that what's going on?
I don't know. I don't know why they're stuck to it because it's wet. Maybe I don't know.
Why is it called the fly agaric?
Yeah, that's puzzled people for a long time. A lot of people assume it's because of the sort of use of them to kill flies in homes and kitchens. People historically have kind of chopped them up, put them in milk, and then flies will be attracted to that and presumably die. I think they're dying because they fall into the milk and drown. You could do it. You could do it with anything, and you could do it with other mushrooms too, and it'll work.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I don't think any flies are really susceptible to it, and for sure flies that feed on mushrooms are not, because that's what I've studied my whole life. So I just don't know. Some other theories about why it's called fly agaric or fliegenpilz is because of the psychotropic properties that you maybe feel like you're flying.
All right, we've been in the woods for, I don't know, hour and a half. We found so many types of mushrooms, covered a lot of ground.
I know for no longer than when we were in the woods, we saw so much diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not even half of the things we saw. All the different types of mushrooms, agarics, boletes, basidiomycetes, ascomycetes. We saw everything today. It's almost like this was a mushroom wonderland.
It is. It's just like that. Because that's where we are. What do you have coming down the pipe? What are you working on right now? Anything that people should know about? I know you're always coming out with new books, and you have a book you want to plug, a website.
Many books I want to plug.
Yeah.
So my Lives of the Fungi book just came out a couple years ago, and that's what I'll be giving lectures on while I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest. Another book that I finished in the spring, and it just came out in October, called The Little Book of Fungi. It's sort of out in time for Christmas gift giving. It's a very small book, a lot of factoids and things for beginners, but people that have any interest in fungi. That just came out. That's The Little Book of Fungi. It's also published by Princeton University Press. And then I just am on deadline and finished a book for another publisher that'll be out in the spring. And it's going to be called Fungi Decoded.
Wow.
Stay tuned for that.
Damn.
It's got a real decoder wheel and everything.
Whoa, cool.
Maybe even decoder glasses.
No.
Possibly.
That's
So
not
that's
real.
what's coming out early next year. So, yep, a lot of stuff going on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in the woods with me today.
Yeah, my
All right.
pleasure.
Thanks, Britt.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. See you guys. Much love.